Real quick, before we get into the show, I wanted to share a new service called Getita that Ken and I have been using that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission-free. How much money does Amazon owe you? You know, at the end of the day, I think of it as renting cash. And I don't care who I'm renting that cash from. I want to pay as little as possible for that. And so, anyway, that is something that, again, you can do that in the slow season or a recession, or you can do it during great economic times.
But be very, very cautious with how you're getting your financing for your inventory, and make sure you know what that APR is, because a lot of these lenders that are advertising to you on Facebook and Google in your inbox, oh, hey, I'm lending money for e-commerce companies. Well, people are not in the business of lending money without making money. And so they're making money somehow. And so if it's murky and you don't understand it, something smells off. It might be off.
It may be time to part ways with some of your products. And that's something that I personally have struggled with, right? You invest a lot of time in finding a supplier and getting everything just right through the sample process. And then you invest money into photos and to a listing. And, by the time you launch that product, you have a lot of time and money wrapped up into it.
Welcome everyone to the Firing the Man podcast, a show for anyone who wants to be their own boss. If you sit in a cubicle every day and know you are capable of more, then join us. This show will help you build a business and grow your passive income streams in just a few short hours per day. And now your hosts, serial entrepreneurs David Schomer and Ken Wilson.
Welcome, everyone, to the Firing the Man podcast. On today's episode, Ken and I dive deep into strategies for a recession or just your slow season. Ken, what's going on, man?
David, what's up? It seems like it's been forever since we've been in the studio. I'm excited today. We've got a list here of some of our best tips and tricks on, increasing profit, how to make your business run smoother, better, faster. You mentioned either slow season or recession. This podcast will air in July of 2022. And so there's been talks of recession and sometimes, if you have a brand that peaks in Q4 in the summer, you might not have a lot of time, you might not be doing a bunch of stuff. So now it's a good time to just hit the brakes a little bit, hit the pause, and focus on getting more profit. That's the name of the game, right?
Absolutely. And, it's with the rising interest rates and people talking about the recession, I have to say back in 2018, I was calling for the great big recession. The business cycle tends to run about every 10 years, and we have been riding high since 2008. And so I guess I was wrong in 2018, but I can confidently say somewhere in the next month to 5 years, likely, we'll have some sort of pullback and just want to make sure that, we're ready and that we're not caught off guard. So let's dive into some of the items that we focus on during a slow season or when there's an upcoming recession.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing to mention before we get in is if you're doing these in your business already, that's great. Maybe take another peek at it and see if you can improve. If you're not doing any of these, add it to your processes and then systematize it so where you're doing this on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis, and then just repeat this process. So in the future, you already got this baked into your game plan. David, what's your first one on the list?
Yeah, so it is be profit margin focused. And this is something that, you should be doing anyway. But in a recession or in your slow season, you're going to have cash flow constraints. And focusing on your highest profit, highest velocity products that's really going to be the key there. If there's not enough money to go around to replace all of your inventory, then you ought to replace your important inventory. And what's your important inventory? It's the one that's making you the most money. We use Helium 10 for this, and specifically their profits tool. And I really like that because it bakes in, the Amazon referral fee, the FBA fee, and then any PPC that was run to that listing. And, there are certain products that appear very profitable, but they happen to have a very high cost per click for some of their main keywords. And so when we're assessing profitability, we always like to look at it after pay-per-click advertising. And, I would say kind of the other side of this profit margin focus is it may be time to part ways with some of your products. And that's something that I personally have struggled with, right? You invest a lot of time in finding a supplier and getting everything just right through the sample process. And then you invest money into photos and to a listing. And, by the time you launch that product, you have a lot of time and money wrapped up into it. And so to kind of kill your losers is challenging sometimes, but it is something that I think is important and something that we're working through right now is looking at some products that we've been selling for 2 to 3 years that may have run their course and it may be time to part ways with them and just have to remove the emotions from it. Cause I often feel like they're almost like your children, right? Like, that's an extreme example, but like you have so much tied up into a product, especially if it was like one of your ideas. It's hard to admit to yourself, hey, my idea, I swung and missed. I was wrong. The markets didn't think this was a good idea. And so anyway,
yeah.
Any thoughts on that, or you want to dive into your next item?
Yeah. A couple quick thoughts. So it's a great profit margin focus. That's huge. And it's a good time to take a peek at that and see where you're at, see if anything has went up, went down. And in terms of, kind of weeding out the products that are not adding to the bottom line, that's a kind of an emotional thing, especially when you've invested it, or maybe you invented it, or maybe whatever. But at the end of the day, what's helped me is like forecast out, 2 years, say, okay, if I had this product, if I keep this product, I'm going to invest time and money into it over the next 2 years. What is it going to bring to the bottom line? And then look at some of your other products that are good sellers and think, well, if I can drop this one and get more good sellers, that is what's going to add to the bottom line. And so looking at it over a, 1 year window, a 3 year window, things like that, I think is super helpful, but definitely a hard decision to make, but it's a good one to do for your business. So that's awesome.
Definitely. What's next on your list?
Yeah. What I've got, the first one on my list right here is split testing to increase profit. And at the end of the day, split testing it'll increase your conversion rate, but at the end of the day, it's going to increase your profit. And so specifically on Amazon, we use the experiments tool, and right now you can split test main image, title, and A+ or EBC. And so it is a free tool offered by Amazon. And so I would definitely encourage everyone to be using this. Now, don't do it all at once, but you do it one at a time. Main image, then A+, then title. But definitely split test your listings and squeak out that extra 2%, 5%, and then do each one and then add it up. And at the end of the day, I've got an example here. If you have a $25 product and you're making $7 net profit on that, if you're selling 20 a day, it'd be $600 a month. That's $4,200 in profit. And if you can squeak out 5% on split testing, which I think it's extremely easy to do, that's $210 a month extra profit. If you can get 10%, that's $420 a month in extra profit. Now multiply that over 10 of your products. That's some serious cash every month to your bottom line just by using a free tool. And so that's my number one, David.
Absolutely. I think that's a really, really good idea. And, it's not a huge burden, right? You take for instance, your hero photo, you take, one image and the brand, what's it called? The Manage My Experiments in Amazon. Yep. It's so easy. And, it'll run its course. And then at the end, all you do is hit implement, and that photo will apply to all of your listings. You can do the same thing with titles and EBC as well. And so not a ton of heavy lifting there, and something that, in slow season or recession or not, it's a great thing to be doing. And so I really like that.
Yeah.
So next one I have on my list is assess your market. And the way I'm going to approach this one is by taking all products and dividing them into wants and needs. So for instance, like a deodorant or toothpaste or some of these like consumables, during a recession, they probably do not see that big of a dip in sales. Now you compare, and I would classify those as more of like the needs. On the want side, an extreme example of this may be you sell $2,500 guitars, or you're selling wakeboards, more in the wants category. When an economy feels the squeeze, these are often the types of products that are damaged the most. You see like a lot of like boat dealerships and things like that seem to go under during recessions. And so, this may not always be possible, but, think about your products and say you are selling $2,500 guitars. Maybe you launch a product that is a guitar refurbishing kit, right? So when times are tough, someone's taking grandpa's old guitar and going to refurbish it as opposed to buying a new one. If you were selling wakeboards, maybe you go into something for overwintering boats, something that someone needs to do if they own a boat and live in a cold area. And so I would just say assess your market and are your product, and ask yourself that question, are my products wants or needs?
Yeah, I really like that, David. That's a great idea. And also for all the listeners, like if you're building your business for an exit, which you should be, it's probably your most valuable asset you own in your life. You want to have, like you mentioned earlier on the podcast, there's dips, every 10 years, the market goes up and down, there's dips. And so adding these key pieces, let's go on the wakeboarding brand. Let's say you sell $2,500 wakeboards and that's your lineup of products. Well, if a recession hits, you're going to be, SOL, as we like to say it. But if maybe you can add in, a wakeboard scratch remover kit or t-shirts or something that is affordable for someone that if they're wakeboarding, if that's their hobby, they're in a crunch, but maybe they have $25 or $40 to buy something to take a scratch off their old wakeboard or a t-shirt to say like, hey man, I'm hitting it now or whatever. That's a great idea. I think to add products into your portfolio that level it out, minimize your risk. It'll increase the value of your business for sure.
Definitely. So what do you have next on your list?
Yeah. Next one I've got, number 2. This one is also very easy to do. It just takes time. Look for wasted PPC ad spend. And so all the time, PPC, especially on Amazon, Walmart, whatever marketplace you're selling on, you're likely driving ads to your listings. And so there's a lot of PPC is constantly changing. It's not a set it and forget it. What the keywords you're bidding on now might not be the keywords you're bidding on in 6 months. The cost might have went up, the competition might have come in, et cetera. So drilling into this a little bit, a couple of specific action items. One of the things we like to do is we like to look at we run an entire audit of our account and look for changes in keywords. Like I just said, maybe a keyword, wakeboard cover, maybe that one 6 months ago was crushing it, conversion rate was crushing it. Now, maybe it's doubled, maybe it's a $7 keyword now and it's not profitable. Time to, trim that out, decrease budget, maybe even pause that one if it's not profitable. Another one we like to do is as we audit the account, we like to look for old campaigns, entire campaigns that are 50, 60% ACOS, but we just kind of keep them around because maybe there's like some really solid keywords in there, and we're kind of like, some of the mentality that David, that you and I have had in historically is that, oh, well, we're going to run this PPC to this campaign or whatever because there's our money keywords are in there. And so we need them for ranking. At the end of the day, profit is the name of the game. So if you're not correlating your ranking of keywords with your PPC campaigns, and if you're not dialed in on that, if you just have this like mental block of I can't pause this keyword because it's crucial for ranking, and if you don't have any data to back that up, I think that's the wrong decision. And so looking for those old campaigns, old keywords that have 50, 60% ACOS and they're not profitable, might be time to trim that budget back or even pause those in a downturn.
Sorry to interrupt the episode. You may have heard Ken and I talking recently about a new tool that we're using for Amazon refunds. Now, I have used other refund tools like this. However, I can tell you in the first 7 days, they scrubbed the back end of my Amazon account going back 18 months and found $5,000 of refunds. And the nice thing about this is it's my money. Amazon made a mistake and they are just auditing my account. The other thing I really like about this tool is there is no monthly fee. They only charge a commission if they are successful in getting you your money. Go to getida.com, Getida, and enter promo code FTM for Firing the Man, FTM400. This is an awesome tool. Can't say enough good things about it. Now, back to the episode.
And the last one here, last action item here is something that we do is we consistently, every month, we pull reports, brand analytics, pull search term reports, and we're culling out new keywords to try, right, and to add. And in the downturn, we might run fewer of those exploratory campaigns because when you're exploring and testing, they're usually not profitable for months. You're testing and figuring something out. And so it could be a good time to just run with what you have and run super lean and then just kind of pause all your exploration until brighter times.
Absolutely. One thing that we do on a weekly basis with PPC is we document a bunch of different statistics. We're looking at conversion rate, ACOS, TACOS, profit margin, ad spend. And we have it set up in an Excel spreadsheet where, because there's 3-day attribution on Amazon, we're always going back 3 days and then looking at a 7-day period. But you can monitor week over week how PPC is impacting your business. And one thing that I really like about this is we document any changes that we make. So for instance, if we launch some exploratory campaigns, we will document what week we did that. And fast forward a month, when you see your TACOS go down or up, it helps you kind of drill down to what's causing this inflection point. And so I really like that. And man, I'll tell you what, PPC, especially on an account that's say 5 years old, there's a ton of campaigns, a lot of stuff. I don't know, like I'll bet on some of our accounts we've got tons, hundreds, of campaigns and portfolios, and they're sneaky. Like there are things that could be on page 9 that are still turned on and bidding, and so yeah, I think that's a really good suggestion in terms of auditing your PPC.
Yeah, absolutely. What's your next one, David?
So it is to refinance debt, and I'll speak to what we've done here. Oftentimes, we're using a business line of credit. And we've done that through Amazon Lending. Amazon Lending has partnered up with Goldman Sachs, and they have a program. It's called the Marcus line of credit. And then we've gone through a traditional bank. And typically what we'll do is if we're in a cash crunch, we'll look to something like Amazon Lending or Marcus, and with the intention of refinancing out of that into bank debt. Bank debt tends to be like a lower APR. And that is something that I have found, especially with a lot of these new loan products, is it's really interesting how they word the interest, right? They're lending you money and then you pay them interest for borrowing that cash. And one thing that they have to disclose is APR. And that is something that when I'm looking at different debt vehicles, I like to put the APR right next to that. That's how whether this is a better opportunity or not. And so, one thing that I have done, and in fact, I kind of like to do this when I'm in the car, is I'll write down, I have a 8% line of credit through Marcus from Goldman Sachs. And I'll start calling banks and say, hey, I've got a business line of credit at 8%. We're looking to refi into something a little better. What do you think? Can you help us? And that's a bank's job. They're in the business of lending money. And so, at the end of the day, I think of it as renting cash. And I don't care who I'm renting that cash from. I want to pay as little as possible for that. And so anyway, that is something that, again, you can do that in the slow season or a recession, or you can do it during great economic times. It's just good business hygiene, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely a low-hanging fruit, too, a way to save on your cash. One other note I want to add to that one is early on, when I first started my businesses, I did use Amazon Lending. I used a couple of other resources for lending that's out in the market for e-commerce, and they were predatory. And so I want to caution everyone listening that I'm not going to name any names or any companies, but be very, very cautious with how you're getting your financing for your inventory, and make sure you know what that APR is, because a lot of these lenders that are advertising to you on Facebook and Google in your inbox, oh, hey, I'm lending money for e-commerce companies. Well, people are not in the business of lending money without making money. And so they're making money somehow. And so if it's murky and you don't understand it, something smells off. It might be off. And so the best ways that David and I have found to fund our inventory at the sub $10 million range is lines of credit from local banks. And we're in that range of 5 to 7% ish, depending on, what market you're in. And so those are the best ways we've found to finance inventory. So,
and one last point on this, we use the Bank of Montreal, and that was something that we have a great relationship with them. And no, we're not paid spokesmen, but it's when we were talking to local banks, one thing that I heard from a lot of lenders was, we don't really understand your business. So for instance, like if we loan you money for a house and you don't pay us back, we can repo that house. In this instance, on your balance sheet, really your largest asset is your inventory, and they're not interested in repoing whatever you're selling on Amazon. And so, but Bank of Montreal has been wonderful to work with. They're very forward thinking and understand that e-commerce is it's the future of commerce. So,
yep. Awesome. So next one on my list is, this one really hits home with me because I have shiny object syndrome. And so the way we work in our company is, David kind of handles all the finances and expenses. And so on a monthly basis, he's saying, hey, Ken, what's this? What's this? What's this? These are coming in on the expense report. And so I have to look at that and justify why we're spending money on this software or this service. And so we do this on a monthly basis. If you don't do that on a monthly basis, anytime is a good time to do this. And so what I recommend is canceling any softwares or services that are not needed and do not add value to your business. And so some of the ways we do this is we'll write out a list, and we usually use our expense report, create a list, and then rank any of the software and services on that list that you're spending, reoccurring subscription for annually or monthly, and then rank them. How crucial is this service or software to our business? And could we operate without it? And just rank all of them. And another piece is, if you have duplicate softwares that would do the same thing, also you have to consider that too. And so I'm certain if you've never done this, you're going to find some softwares and services that you're using or that you're paying for that you probably don't need. And so let's just say you find one, it's a $99 service that you're paying for every month, or a software, $99, and you cancel it. That's $1,200 a year that you've saved to the bottom line. And at a 4X multiple going to a sale, that's $5,000 that you put in your pocket just by canceling that software subscription. So those add up over time. And so it's a low-hanging fruit, 10, 20-minute activity to go through and look at those. But yeah.
Yeah, I think a good rule of thumb on subscriptions is you can always reapply. You can always get that subscription back. I know I've run into this where it's like, well, I didn't use it at all this month, but I might next month. And it's like, well, why don't you delete your subscription, and when you do need it next, just go reapply for it. There's not that much time invested in getting things set up, and you may find that you cancel it and it's 5 or 6 months until you think about it again. And so I think that's a really good tip. So the next one on my list is liquidating slow-moving inventory. And this is something that we're working through right now. Obviously at Amazon, they have long-term storage fees. And it is oftentimes you would be in better financial shape lighting your inventory on fire than having it get hit with long-term storage fees. And they're about 10x that of regular storage fees. And so, that's something that we're looking at on a monthly basis, is what is over 365 days and what is approaching. And we've used discounts, we've used coupons, we've leveraged our email list, and we're actually just had a strategy meeting the other day, and we're talking about pumping things out on social media. And so that is something that having your marketing team and your inventory team working in sync, I think, is really helpful. So, this is one that is challenging, and you do all of this work to get inventory in stock, and so selling at a loss is troubling, right? If you have a $10 product and you're selling it for $20, normally you have a $10 profit margin. Well, if you need to liquidate that, what if you sell it for $12 or $10, right? That it seems counterintuitive, but I would ask yourself, what is the cost of me holding this inventory? And, in terms of storage fees, if you're working with a 3PL, storing it there, and oftentimes the cost of holding it is a lot more than the impact to your business that if you were to sell it at a loss. So, and I'd say this is especially true on people that have products with an expiration date on. I mean, me and my dad used to go, did you guys have a day-old bread store?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the
Wonder store.
Yeah.
Wonder Bread.
Yeah. And you could go buy super cheap bread items that were about to expire, and that's a great example. And it was a great store. So
yeah, I agree.
I don't know where those went, but I wish they'd come back.
Yeah, I haven't been to one in a while.
Yeah, so
it is a great example. And to piggyback off of that, as an example, like Amazon FBA, it was kind of a shocker. Last year, we got hit with an unusually large storage bill, which put us into a shock mode, and really it put us into action to create a SOP for this now. And so we've got this dialed in. If you're using Amazon FBA, Walmart WFS, you have to have this inventory management piece dialed in, or your business will get hit with some fees that are they come right off the bottom line. And you don't want that. And so getting that slow moving inventory, getting a process in place of how to deal with it is crucial. And also Amazon just announced, I think last week, that they have an astronomical fee for anything over 365 days, long-term storage fee. They've also just announced that they're starting to charge for, I think it's like 270 to 365. So like that anything over 9 months. And so, they're really tightening us down to, you don't want to have less than 90 days in inventory, because then you might not cover all the regions, but you don't want to have more than 270 because you're going to get charged. And so there's just that sweet spot that you have to keep all of your inventory in. And it's challenging, but that, like, you're in a physical, you sell physical products, you're in the inventory business. And so getting on top of your inventory management is crucial.
Yeah, that's a tough one, especially when you're sourcing out of China. And, it is way more efficient to ship an entire container than a couple pallets. And ideally, you're sending entire containers in to Amazon. And so, but you can, on the backside of that, end up being much more expensive if you don't sell through all that inventory. And so kind of like the mid-velocity products, it's challenging. I forget what strategy I heard this from. It was on a podcast somewhere, but they were talking about when you're growing your brand, sourcing additional products from the same supplier. And it helps you fill up a container faster and makes your shipping cheaper. And that way you can kind of spread that risk out as opposed to an entire container of one product. So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So rounding out my list is probably one of my favorite ones on the list. This is Getita. So if anybody's, listened to the podcast before, you guys know that David and I, we really, really like Getita. And Getita, what they do is they are focused on getting your money back from Amazon. And now Amazon, they are a large, large corporation, lots of moving parts and pieces. And if you ship your inventory into Amazon, likely some of it's going to get lost, misplaced, damaged by Amazon staff. And so what Getita does is they audit all of, I think it's something like over 100 items they audit. Inventory that's lost or misplaced or refunds. The list is exhaustive. And so what I really like, so all you have to do is load up Getita, connect it to your Amazon Seller Central account, and they pretty much take it over. And so one of the things that I really like about Getita is that it's simple and that it is truly passive. I mean, we do have someone on our team that follows up a little bit with maybe a monthly task of checking for invoices and different things. But for the most part, once you automate that, once you get it set up, it is a really, really good way of adding money directly to your bottom line. And we have a partnership with Getita. If you go to firingtheman.com/Getita, we have I believe the coupon code is FTM, and it'll get you, I believe it's half off your first month. Don't quote me, but it is a really good discount if you go grab that code, and the link's right in there. We've been using Getita for, going on 2 years now, and it's been probably one of the biggest impact. It's had one of the biggest impacts on adding something passive like a software and just letting it run. Yeah,
the number of softwares that make the claim, set it and forget it. It just seems like every software makes that claim, but yeah, that is as close to set it and forget it as it gets. And, prior to that, we were running Refund Genie, which is a Helium-10 product, which it was okay, but, you had to download a flat file. You had to file the cases yourself. Then Amazon would respond, and it seemed to eat up a lot of time. And, Getita only charges you if they're successful. And so it's great. I love our arrangement with Getita. And if you're not running any refund tool, check out Getita. It's, they only charge you if they're successful, and that money goes straight to your bottom line, as Ken said. So yeah, it's a no-brainer if you're in this business.
Absolutely. And if you are running one right now, or if you're using Refund Genie, we found Getita. We were using Refund Genie when we loaded up Getita. It found a lot more money to be recovered than what the Refund Genie had found. So if you are using one, I would suggest giving Getita a try, see if they can find more.
Yeah, I remember in the first 72 hours, it found like $5,000 on one of our brands.
Yeah.
And that was a great day. And so it was surprising how many mistakes it uncovered. And so it's a great company. Yanni, the founder, we've talked to him. He's been on our podcast, and I've talked to him out at Prosper a couple of times. He's a great guy, very business minded, and used to be an Amazon seller. And so built this tool specifically for Amazon sellers, and yeah, all around good product.
Absolutely. So rounding out the show, hopefully, the 8 items that David and I, covered today, hopefully if you have some downtime, take a minute, list these down, go through and try to implement some of these into your business to get more profit. That's the name of the game.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Firing the Man podcast, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's Firing the Man podcast. If you like this episode, head on over to firingtheman.com and check out our resource library for exclusive Firing the Man discounts on popular e-commerce subscription services. That is firingtheman.com/resource. You can also find a comprehensive library of over 50 books that Ken and I have read in the last few years that have made a meaningful impact on our business. For that, head on over to www.firingtheman.com/library. Lastly, check us out on social media at Firing the Man and on YouTube at Firing the Man for exclusive content. This is David Schomer.
And Ken Wilson.
We're out. Before you go, we wanted to share a new service that Ken and I have been using called Getita that has made us over $10,000 in Amazon reimbursements. The service requires no monthly subscription, and Getita collects a small percentage of the money they recover for you. It takes less than 5 minutes to set up and works on all Amazon marketplaces. Go to Getita.com, Getida.com, and enter promo code FTM400. That's FTM for Firing the Man 400 to get your first $400 in reimbursements commission free. How much money does Amazon owe you?